Thank you very much for being here. Welcome to Spirent. We're very excited to have you all here. This is, I think, the third or fourth time we've had Tech Field Day come and be a part of Spirent and listen to us. But virtualization for us is the first, and we're especially excited because we have seen lots of things happening in the industry from a virtualization standpoint, and want to talk about our experiences in terms of our solutions and also what we're seeing in the marketplace with customers and enterprises. So I'll be very quick. So we're going to do some quick introductions to who the speakers are and presenters are, and I'll then turn it over to Angus Robertson, who's going to give you a quick overview on Spirent. So just a quick show of hands. How many of you here know who Spirent is, what we do, how we fit in the industry? All right, just a couple. All right. Well, the good news is you will get an overview of what we do and who we are. And also, we'll get into all the products that we cover and how they address the virtualization market space. So we've got two feature presentations today. The first hour or so, we'll talk about SDN and NFV. I know SDN has different connotations for different people, so SDN and NFV, we'll cover that. And then we'll also talk about automation, and automation in respect to testing in a virtual environment, so automating testing in a virtual environment. And we'll end, as we typically do, our sessions with a quick demo of our virtual solutions as well. Well, quickly, as I mentioned, Angus is going to start off. He's Vice President of our segment marketing here at Spirent, covering our NNA group, followed by Paul Toe. He will cover SDN and NFV. Jim Anaskevich is director for our test automation solutions. We'll be talking about that, and we'll end with Erwin, who's going to give us a short demonstration of our products. Well, with that said, I will let Angus take over.
Thank you, Salaja. As Salaja said, I'm Angus Robertson, and I'm responsible for the segment marketing for one of the business units here at Spirent, the business unit called Networks and Applications, and it's about half of our business at Spirent. I'll just have a couple of slides on Spirent, but before I get into that, I know a few of you aren't from around the Bay Area, and at the Network Field Day we had last year, I highlighted some of the local attractions for folks to visit, and at that time it was the America's Cup, which it looked like the U.S. was going to lose really badly, but at the last moment we managed to turn it around.
Snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. It is a Kiwi trait.
Sorry about that, Alistair. So yeah, but of course my colleagues in Australia quickly pointed out that the skipper is Australian, but of the U.S. boat. Anyway, last weekend it was the first time to Tahoe. I went to Heavenly, and they have their best snow there of the year. And I just couldn't believe the views there. It almost looks like it's a fake background. But if any of you guys have some extra time, I encourage you to go up to Tahoe. It's just about 3.5 hours away from here, and it's a great time to visit. So who is Spirent? I'll tell you a little bit about who Spirent is. So we're a global communications test company, and we're either number one or number two in the markets that we serve. We're over a $400 million company, and we're traded on the London Stock Exchange, and we have more than 1,400 customers worldwide. So here's an example of just a few of those customers that we sell to. So the network equipment manufacturers have traditionally been our largest constituency. So these are folks like Cisco and Juniper and Huawei, ZTE, Samsung. We also sell to large carriers like AT&T and Verizon, Deutsche Telekom, NTT, China Mobile, and even some of the large enterprises as well. So eBay and Costco, HSBC, etc. And what these manufacturers and service providers do with our equipment and our software and our solutions is they use our products to make sure that their products perform and have the reliability and the security that they need in order to sell them into the carriers and enterprises. And then the carriers and the large enterprises also use our test equipment to validate that their services are ready to go, that they have the right level of performance, and security before they launch those new services, so they can be confident that what they're launching is going to work. And just at a high level, on this slide, you can see some of the areas that we cover. So we're very focused in pretty much the entire communications gamut, including applications, mobility. So every handset out there is tested with Spirent in some capacity. We also test most of the positioning type solutions available on the market, and the big data centers, and also all the large routers and switches. And within the Networks and Applications business unit, we have 3 product lines that we focus on. One is the Spirent Test Center product line, and that product is focused on testing the routers and switches, and also some of the next generation software-defined networking protocols like OpenFlow and VXLAN. We also have a product line called Avalanche, and Avalanche is focused on the applications and security testing. We support emulation of more than 4,000 different applications and protocol variants, anything from Facebook to Skype, et cetera, and the different user behaviors and user profiles that go along with that. Last week at RSA, we had a booth and we were doing some joint demonstrations with Checkpoint. And if any of you are familiar with the Checkpoint Experience roadshow, we're working with Checkpoint this year and actually showing off our capabilities and also highlighting how Checkpoint does their testing with Spirent. So if you are invited to any of those Checkpoint Experience shows, you'll be able to see Spirent Avalanche in action doing some of the security and malware type testing. And lastly, we have our Landslide product, and Landslide is really focused on the mobile infrastructure. So that's everything from GGSN to MME to policy servers to gateways to authentication in the mobile network. And we're very focused on LTE. And one of the other strong growth areas that we're seeing is Wi-Fi offload testing. So testing those Wi-Fi offload gateways. That's been a great business for us last year. And actually, at Mobile World Congress last week, we were in Barcelona. There's about 75,000 attendees. We were actually doing a live demonstration with Alcatel-Lucent, and we were showing a virtual Evolve packet core. So actually the LTE infrastructure virtualized as part of this network functions virtualization, or NFV type capability. So we see our major carrier customers all doing proof of concepts around SDN and NFV. It's a very hot topic these days. So I know I'm standing in a very in front of a very august body of technologists, and I wanted to ask, does anybody know what this is?
It's the Intel SoC.
Look at that. That was a very quick answer. So Intel Edison, it's will be one of the smallest computers out there, and list price for about $50. And I know a couple of you raised your hands who are familiar with Spirent. Has anybody seen this before? So this is our largest offering in terms of test equipment from Spirent. It's our chassis. This is actually an 11U chassis. This was just something we highlighted at a trade show. But what we've done in terms of really focusing on the virtualization market is we've separated our hardware from our software. And we've been working closely with Intel to do that. So we're using an embedded Linux called Yocto, and we're also using the Intel DPDK drivers for getting the maximum performance out of our network interfaces. So the test applications I talked to you about before are our Spirent Test Center application, our Landslide application, our Avalanche application. They can run on our top-of-the-line, expensive chassis, or they can actually run on that SD size computer. So we have a lot of flexibility. Or if a customer wants to just use their own blade server, they can do that as well. So this is, in terms of testing, we're the only company that can do that today, and we consider this a key differentiator for us in the virtualization space, especially for SDN and NFV. So here's the Intel Quark and the Intel Ivy Bridge. So anywhere in that range, we can run our software. And as I mentioned earlier, Intel sees NFV and SDN as a big opportunity for them because there's obviously an opportunity to sell a lot more off-the-shelf hardware. I don't know if anybody saw the Wall Street Journal article that talked about AT&T's future direction, but they talked about, AT&T talked about 21 billion in CapEx, and about a third of that is spent on network infrastructure, but AT&T wants to move more towards off-the-shelf servers, open source to deploy SDN to get a lot more flexibility and cost control out of the network. Of course, just like PSTN to VoIP, this is going to take some time, and AT&T is depending on their key suppliers to help them through that transition. But to that end, we're going to be launching or releasing a white paper with Intel on some of these NFV technologies and how to test them and how to validate them and also how to deploy them. So my last slide in terms of what's next or what we're focusing on now in terms of packaging our technology, the top picture next week at the OFC show here in the Bay Area, we're actually launching our next generation 100 gig card. So this is a 4-port 100 gig test generator analyzer, and it can actually do tri-speed. So out of those same ports, you can do 40 gig or multiples of 10 gig. And we've actually, here again, we're using our virtual platform, the Yocto and the Intel DBTK, and our Spirent Test Center router tester software. So we're consistent in the execution. And then the second example is a case study we recently did in Australia with a startup who's focusing on security as a service. So we took our Avalanche software and actually put it in the Amazon cloud, and this allowed this security as a service vendor actually validate the performance of their security solution in the cloud. And going forward, Spirent's very focused on working with the large manufacturers and service providers in helping them transform their products and networks to deal with this incredible speedy transformation to virtualization, NFV, and SDN. And at the same time, as this technology gets matures and gets more broadly deployed into the enterprise, we're packaging our solutions and our technology into more accessible solutions. So we have our testing as a service or software as a service solution called Blitz, which is a credit-based system for doing web application testing that's using the Avalanche technology underneath the hood. And we also have our Axon product. The list price is all online. It's very accessible, and it's used for enterprises. It's an easy-to-use tool to validate their performance. But again, it's using Spirent Test Center technology under the hood. And then, of course, we have our professional services offerings for enterprise customers in terms of validating the data centers and things like latency and performance and security.